And it has been a remarkably busy week. Of course, the tariffs and back and forth. China, by the way, jacking up the tariffs further to 125%. I read this morning. We'll see where that ends up. But China not backing down. So there will be a full-blown trade war with China. The rest of the world apparently willing to make deals. Vietnam was in Washington yesterday. Their trade representative, their vice president, actually making a deal. We'll keep an eye on all of that. Meanwhile, joining me now, Sarah Parshall Perry. She is the Vice President and Legal Fellow of Defending Education. Sarah, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Now, you filed a federal complaint, your organization, against Indiana University for racial discrimination. And what's weird here, I just keep reading these stories where there's this defiance to federal law. Whether it's men and women's sports, I just read that the entire state of Maryland is refusing ICE detainers for people that are in jail. I mean, apparently the people in blue states and blue universities think that they can just do as they please regardless of federal law. Tell us about your complaint, but it's an odd place that I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is actually a race discrimination complaint that we filed against Indiana University. It was one of 4 that we filed in higher education specifically. And you're exactly right. We are seeing recalcitrant college administrators, we're seeing recalcitrant blue state governors, blue state superintendents of schools, with all of the missives we've seen coming from the Department of Education and from the White House itself on directing education to go back to ideologically neutral stances, to prevent discrimination on the basis of race through DEI or sex through gender identitarianism. We are trying to help wind back the clock. And we are now finding in a lot of unlikely places in higher education some of these racially discriminatory practices. Indiana University itself has not 1, not 2, but 4 race-based scholarships in which they say exclusively they will grant preference to an individual based on their being a minority or a person of color. Well, the Supreme Court's been very clear about the fact that eliminating race discrimination means eliminating all of it. And that means against any individual, no matter what the color of their skin is. In fact, civil rights law and the Constitution are colorblind. But a lot of these colleges and universities seem to have forgotten that.
They do seem to have forgotten that. Some are getting the message. And I go to what seems to work the best, Sarah. Hold the money. If you don't give them federal funds, places like IU, they're in real trouble. I mean, the city of Bloomington will feel the pain in Indiana. I guarantee you that. And so we saw this with some universities. And look, if you want to continue to do this and defy federal law, then go into your endowment. All these universities have multi-billion-dollar endowments. Use your own money. If you think you're so correct on this, use your own money. Don't take federal money. I mean, that's a solution, isn't it?
Well, that's exactly it. And in fact, every one of these publicly funded colleges, and remember, this is so much as $1 of federal funding, but this is significantly more than $1. That is simply the hook to get them underneath the federal civil rights protections enforced by the Department of Education. And they have to certify at the beginning of every academic year that they will follow anti-discrimination law and that they will inculcate race, color, preference, national origin, sex, anti-discrimination complaints, and they will enforce the statutes as they are written, not as they want them written. And the Federal Department of Education is well within its statutory right to pull funding. It hasn't happened before, but this may be the administration to do just that.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen here? I mean, I think that the fastest way to compliance is withholding federal funding, which has happened at the University of Pennsylvania and other places for similar violations, similar enough anyway, because they're all violations of executive orders and such signed by Donald Trump, which, well, by the way, some of these things are going to be codified in this big, beautiful bill that we're going to see because it affects money. And I think that some of these things are going to be codified into federal law. Then it's no longer an executive order. It is the federal law as passed by Congress. Look, they can only defy for so long, Sarah. I don't see how they can continue to stand up. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, sunlight is the best disinfectant, and we did file another civil rights complaint against the University of California, Berkeley, for its race distinction scholarship. It was called the Environmentalist of Color Scholarship. We filed the federal complaint, and 2 days later, they have renamed the scholarship. Now, that's great in theory. It is an initial first step, but we know at least calling out what's transpiring behind closed doors, doing the research into these higher education institutions, discovering incidents incidents of race and sex discrimination is going to be heavy lifting work. And it's going to require a lot of sunlight on a lot of universities, a lot of federal complaints, and we're hopeful Department of Education investigations as well.
Yeah. So you've got a couple of lawsuits out there, UCal, Berkeley, IU. Do you have anything, any others that are potentially flirting with being on the receiving end?
University of Wisconsin-Madison, for sure, is on the receiving end, as are Milwaukee County Public Schools. So we've got a couple in the pipeline. Listen, and the Department of Education's duty-bound to open up and take a look at every federal civil rights complaint that is filed within 180 days. That means this backlog of complaints has to get before the eyes of someone at Department of Education, and they will make a determination if there's enough evidence to go on to open up an investigation and to take it from there. But we are going to flood the zone. This is the way that we get things done. We get ideologically non-neutral, ideologically subjective bent ideas, principles out of higher education. We have worked very heavily for the past 4 years in K through 12. We're excited to be moving into higher education as well, because higher education has been lost. The liberal academy has been lost for a long time. It's time for American citizens, parents, and the mothers of college students like me to help take it back.
I totally agree, Sarah, and I appreciate the work you're doing. Keep coming back and updating us as, look, it's not going to happen overnight. Lawsuits are a process. I learned this long time. It's a process. You'd think it'd be, cut and dried, done in 24 hours. No, more like 24 months or longer sometimes. But we appreciate the time and the effort, and give us an update from time to time. Thank you so much.
Will do. Thanks, Steve.
There you have it.